Shalom, and welcome back to Bnei Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe, and most importantly, to share this insight and inspiration with friends and family. When you look in chapter 20 in the book of Deuteronomy, it discusses the protocol for how the Israelites were meant to go out to war. First of all, of course, it makes the point that even if you see great masses of soldiers and equipment, well, in those days it was horses and all kind of fighting gear, don't worry about it, because if you're going out under the flag of God, well, there is nothing to worry about. God is the one that took you out of Egypt, and therefore there shouldn't be any reason for concern. God will take care of it and you will win the war. However, as they're about to approach the actual war, as they're getting closer to the front, that's when the priest, a designated priest, would come and speak to the people, to the soldiers, that is, and say to them, listen, today you're going out to war on or over your enemies. Don't be faint of heart. Don't be scared. But then he says, listen, if there's anyone that just built a new home and didn't get a chance to use it, go back. Anyone who just planted a new vineyard and didn't get a chance to reap its fruits, go back home. Somebody who even just got married and didn't get a chance to spend time with his new wife, go back home. And then, if you look in verse 8, the officers, it says, V'yasvu hashotrim. Now they go even more and they say, anyone who is afraid and is faint at heart, please go home and don't cause others to be scared. Now, what is this referring to? And what lessons could we learn from this? How do we apply this nowadays? Well, nowadays we don't have to go out there and make these announcements to the soldiers that are fighting a war. And they're not fighting a war necessarily under the banner of God, at least not in the literal sense. Well, the sages give us a very interesting insight, which can teach us a great lesson here in life. And look how sensitive, so to speak, God is, even with the sinner, even with the person that is deficient in his good deeds. You see, this verse 8 is actually referring to directly to somebody who's well aware of his spiritual standing, his spiritual and moral standing. And he knows that unfortunately, he doesn't have good deeds. Unfortunately, he's committed maybe even terrible sins. And therefore, he's fearful. This is not just an empty fear. He's legitimately fearful because he's afraid that maybe, and not maybe not only a maybe, but maybe more than just a maybe, he has no merit, and perhaps God will not protect him. Maybe everybody else will win the war, but he will be a casualty of war. And therefore, he's afraid, and legitimately so. But his fear, no one knows why he's afraid. His fear, unfortunately, can become contagious. And therefore, God says to him, go home, you're absolved. You don't have to worry about the war. Somebody else will fight it. But think about it now. If somebody is going back because of the sins that's in his possession, the misdeeds, the deficiency in good deeds, he's going to be terribly embarrassed. And perhaps that in itself will be a motivator for him to stay back and stay with the ranks, that is, and not go home. Thus, he will cause tremendous pain. He will wreak havoc on all the other soldiers by his contagious fear. So you know what God did? He first said, well, if you built a new home, go home, go enjoy your house. You got married. You didn't get a chance to enjoy that special time together with your new wife. Go home, be a husband. You just planted a vineyard. You didn't get a chance to enjoy its fruit. Go home. Now, anybody that sees somebody leaving the ranks, someone falling out of the ranks and returning back to the direction of home, will not suspect that this person is a sinner. On the contrary, you have now 3-1 chances that this person is maybe going home to enjoy his new home, his new wife, his new vineyard. Thus, God is even protecting the dignity, safeguarding the feelings of even this person who is leaving legitimately because he's a bad person, because of his sins. And this teaches a great lesson. It's true that we cannot in any way exonerate somebody who's done something wrong without, of course, proper course, which whatever it is, whether it is the judge is handing out a punishment or whether it's true repentance, we certainly cannot condone misdeeds. But at the same time, you see how God himself goes out of his way, so to speak, to protect, to safeguard the dignity of this person. And that's a great lesson for us. Certainly, we shouldn't go and shame someone else. We shouldn't go and deliberately and overtly hurt someone else's feelings, even if that person has done wrong. Call them out for what they did if it's necessary, especially in a court of law. Absolutely. You got to call a spade, but not to do something unnecessarily to bring shame on the person. That's not what we're supposed to do. That's not a godly thing.